Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kane Webb here for BSO, and today we're going to talk to you about the Switch 2. Now, bear with me because this is going to be somewhat of a lengthy video, and I'm going to try and be brief while lengthy, but considering the amount of information, misinformation, new information, retracted information, the general cluster F that has gone along with this situation, I kind of wanted to make a video that would be easy to explain. The article would be like 50 million words if I tried it. So I figure about a 5 to 10 minute video could accomplish what a very lengthy article could accomplish. And I figured you guys would appreciate this much more than sitting down for 45 minutes to learn about the Switch 2. Ain't nobody trying to do that much homework on a video game system. So, let's get off to the system itself. The system itself is a genuine quality product. We now know that this is capable of not just 4K, which, okay, I get that. People are going to be like, that's been the standard since like the Xbox One, and you're not wrong, okay? But Nintendo is now here, and for a portable system, this thing has all the specs that you would want, as well as being fully capable of delivering an even higher performance in docked mode. And that was the biggest thing. So what the system is essentially a rehash of this of the Nintendo Switch, except it's a bit larger. It has much more durable Joy-Cons. Now, I'm disappointed that they didn't go with what's called Hall Effect joysticks, and essentially all you need to know about it is that it completely eliminates Joy-Con drift or joystick drift, any kind of drift that you're used to where the controller just moves on its own. The Hall Effect has eliminated that. Now, Nintendo did say that they have something comparable to that, but it's their own. And that's kind of like Nintendo. They don't really like to pay for something that they can develop in-house. Whether or not it's up to snuff, I guess we're going to find out together. But the way that the Joy-Cons fit within the system seems to be a lot more durable. They used extremely strong magnets that require you to press a button in order for it to come out. It also has adapter switches on the top and the bottom, as well as now having full voice chat and video chat capabilities within our games. The games that they announced, really the biggest games that they announced for the launch of the system was Mario Kart World. Now, Donkey Kong Bonanza comes about a month later, but I would call that their second biggest launch title, if I'm being perfectly honest. It seems to me that they're banking everything on these Switch 2 sort of upgrades that they've done. Remaking both Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, giving those a Switch 2 upgrade, and even adding in some extra content for games like Mario Party that now use the Switch 2 mouse capability. So they do have at least those games coming, but the biggest thing with this system is the amount of third-party support and the fact that they came out of the gate announcing that they have what amounts to, for Soulsborne fans, you'll love this, it amounts to essentially a Bloodborne sequel. Now, it is not a sequel to Bloodborne, but it is a Nintendo From Software exclusive called the Duskbloods. And yes, it does use older assets, but that is something a lot of companies do. Like, you build those assets to be able to use them in different games. So it's not a problem for me as long as FromSoft develops a brand new story, which of course they're going to, and all new challenges, which of course they're going to. So that's kind of where we're at with the games, but that one doesn't come out until I think 2026 or 2027. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 2027. So right now, they did have this other game called, I can't even remember. That's how little I care. Essentially, it's a wheelchair basketball game that uses both mouse, but makes you use both Joy-Cons as a mouse, and you have to actually like roll the legs of your wheelchair by using the mouse motions. and then you shoot with the mouse, you pass, you can motion with the mouse, like, hey, pass it over here. Let me get my hand in front of the camera. Hey, over here. Stuff like that. The game looks like it's taking place in a prison. Gamunganus, I guess. I have no idea why they thought that black or gray arenas was going to appeal to anyone with what already seems like a pretty niche game due to the controls. If you could just use a controller on this, it might have some very Nintendo-style Rocket League capability, but if people are forced to use it with the mouse, I just know it's not really going to go anywhere. It doesn't seem to appeal to anyone. I've not heard a single person say I'm excited for that game. I certainly think it's something people will give a shot, but not at a full price. I just don't see that happening. Which kind of leads me to the next thing that I was going to talk about, and that's the second Switch 2 exclusive game that they have coming at launch, and it's called Welcome Tour. Now, this game essentially, literally, tells you how the system operates, and that's it. It just explains the system. It's a tech demo that they're insisting people pay $10 for. Except it doesn't have any of the fun or the integrity or the class of an Astrobot or an Aperture Desk Job. I don't even know what to say about this thing, man. I personally think it's a scam that they're charging people for that, but that's a pretty loaded word. But I don't know how else you would describe insisting people will appreciate a Welcome Tour game at $10 when people who have already played it have said this game doesn't really have anything to offer and, in my opinion, should be free. And these are people who have played it. If that's how they feel about it, then how are you going to convince somebody who is already skeptical about paying for a tech demo in the first place? You know, I mean, this is coming from a company that had previously had pack-in titles. And I know that Reggie Fils-Aimé had to convince Nintendo to pack in Wii Sports, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It just, this should be included. It's stupid that they're charging for it. There's no other word. It's stupid. Now, the option for your Switch is either a $450 bundle, which is just a system by itself, or you can pay $500 to get the Mario Kart World Bundle, which saves you about $80, which leads me to or $30, which leads me to my next topic. Let me get a drink of water. This is a lot. And that's why I always have a red mustache. So, immediately after the Nintendo Switch happened, they announced that pre-orders would take place a week from the date of the Direct, which is on April 2nd. So, essentially, they should have been live today. However, everybody and their mother knew that Donald Trump was going to be announcing tariffs. So, as soon as April 2nd came and he announced the tariffs, Nintendo pulled the Switch 2 pre-orders from the United States and announced that they had to reassess everything with the tariffs. Never mind the fact that they had already shipped to the systems to the United States. Never mind the fact that Trump's announced a month ago that these tariffs were coming once the 30-day pause expired on the 2nd. Never mind the fact that Nintendo knew these tariffs were coming and still let the information for pre-orders get out and didn't stop it that day. Never mind all of that. They insisted that the tariffs played a part in this. And then today, they took away yesterday took away Canada's ability to pre-order. The day before they were supposed to be able to pre-order their system, they told Canada that they couldn't pre-order. Now, the United Kingdom and everywhere else can pre-order, but Canada, who I don't know if Japan knows this, but it is actually not a state. They're their own nation. So it's weird that the UK can order them, but Canada can't. They got screwed on this whole thing too, and Nintendo has really just basically taken the Don Matrick approach. For those of you, when the Xbox One came out and it was announced at an absurd price and that it would always be online, Jeff Keighley, the video game awards guy, he's basically like the dude in the video game industry for journalism. He asked Xbox president Don Matrick, so for people who don't like the idea of an online system that they have to pay this kind of money for, what would you say to them? And his response was basically, well, if you don't like it, we have a lower system available for you in the Xbox 360. It was like, if you don't like it, then why don't you just keep playing your old system and let us do our thing? And Jeff Keighley called him out on the spot. Like, it's a pretty vicious like 30 seconds for Don Matrick. If you Google Don Matrick Xbox 360, you could pull up the clip. It's pretty brutal. And Nintendo president Doug Bowser essentially came out and said the same thing about the Switch 2, the game pricing, and that people could stay with the older system and the older prices if they didn't want to pay $80 for a system. Now, here's the thing, though. Or, excuse me, $80 for a game. And that's what Nintendo is charging for their games, except when they're not. Because they said that they're introducing something called variable pricing, meaning a game could be $40, it could be $50, it could be $60, or in the case of Mario Kart World, it could be $80. Now, I have my own tin hat reasons why Nintendo is charging $80 for Mario Kart World, and my personal belief is that they're purposely charging it an absurd price because they want people to buy the bundle so that they have a similar install rate to the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch 1. I think that there's some of that logic behind what they're doing with this. But they've said that there's plenty of things they haven't shown. Look, I don't care if they add a story mode. There's nothing in this game that's worth $80. Unfortunately, that's what Nintendo can charge. That's what they will charge. But it's not because of the tariffs, let me tell you that. But then this leads us to an honest discussion about game prices in general. They're going to go up. There's no coincidence that people are talking about GTA 6 potentially being around $100. Rockstar has invested over $2 billion with a B into one game. If you don't think that they're going to let that game stay in the market for a good 10 to 15 years before ever coming out with 7, and that they're not going to charge higher prices for a game that they know is going to sell anyway, I don't know what to tell people. But here's the thing. If it's a company like Rockstar that has an established pedigree of producing hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, and they make the kind of investment that Rockstar did, then I've personally no problem paying $100 for one game. Granted, it cannot be every game that charges that, nor should it. But if a game developer can go out of their way to show costs for something that they've developed and reasons why we should be excited to pay more, look, man, game development is not getting any cheaper. And it kind of goes with the same idea of you wouldn't pirate music from your favorite artists because you want to support them. At a certain point, you can't keep demanding $60 games when they're investing games aren't... The cost to build these games warrants a higher price for some games. But that's an honest discussion that we need to have, and we need to have soon so that we can get the productivity out of the way so that there's not constant bickering and boycotts going on. So what do? Quite simply, Do not buy any game that you feel is way too overpriced. Don't buy it. Don't buy the system if you feel like you don't want. Like, I know I'm going to buy the Switch, and I know I'm going to grab the Mario Kart bundle because I am a Nintendo fan, but here's where they're not going to get me. This past Switch generation, I loved games like Toad's Treasure Tracker, Princess Peach's Showtime, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf. But you know what I'm not going to be doing? Is buying those games going forward because they're not always consistently as good. And if they're going to have that high price gap, then Nintendo can go ahead and get the extra $10 off me now. Considering games are about $70, they can go ahead and get the extra $10 now by charging me $80, but they're going to lose $140 when I don't buy those 2 games that come out, or those, $280 when I don't buy those 4 games that come out, because I don't think they're worth it anymore. That's how you fight back. They'll eventually realize that they're overcharging for it, or they won't. But that's just kind of where we're at. Anyway, this video's gone on long enough. As soon as we have an announcement from Nintendo about where you can go for pre-orders and when they'll be available, I will have an article up with every single link you could possibly imagine right here on BSO. So for Rob and the rest of us here at BSO, this is Kane Webb. Catch you later.